8:30, we'll get started. Notice is hereby given of a regular meeting of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation to be held on March 27th, 2024 at 8:30 a.m. at the East Mezzanine of City Hall, 72 West College Avenue, San Angelo, Texas, for the purpose of considering the following agenda items. Number one, we'll call the meeting to order. It is 8:31. And Dr. Jones, will you please lead us in prayer?
Heavenly Father, we thank you today. Thank you for all the many ways you bless us here in this fair city of San Angelo. We thank you for the beautiful day we have and the rain you've sent us recently. We ask that you would guide and direct us in these deliberations this morning. We ask these things in the name of your Son. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Number three, public comment. Issues or items that are not on the agenda may be raised by the public at this time. Citizens should speak from the podium, begin by stating their name, and limit remarks to less than 3 minutes. Board members may request that a discussed item be placed on a future agenda. The board takes public comment on all regular agenda items during the discussion of those items. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 4, consent agenda. A, consider approving the regular meeting minutes from February 28, 2024. B, consider approving the necessary corporation disbursement. C, consider approving the February 2024 financials. D, consider authorizing board president to execute a letter of support in favor of, fall year 25 community project funding request, water and sewer infrastructure at the City of San Angelo Railport. E, consider authorizing the board president to execute a letter of support in favor of FY25 community project funding request, San Angelo Regional Airport Air Traffic Control Tower Reconstruction Project. And F, consider authorizing the board president to execute a letter of support in favor of FY25 community project funding request, sewer and fire suppression infrastructure around Lake Nasworthy and San Angelo Regional Airport.
If I would please, Nora Navarez, I'm just going to let you know on the minutes, I did a typo, so when you do your motion, just state that you will pass the consent with the amendment of the correction on the minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
So is anyone on the board want to do that?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have first by Director Jones, second by Director Mahaffey. All those in favor, or any discussion first? No? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to item 5, regular agenda. A, update presentation regarding the San Angelo Rail Park, presentation made by Michael Looney.
Morning, Board. Michael Looney, I'm the VP of Economic Development for the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce. Wanted to just give a quick update on the San Angelo Railport. For those who aren't familiar or need an update, that is a 183-acre railport that was initially a private piece of land that was purchased by COCDC approximately 4 years ago with the intent of building a multimodal inland railport. Just to give an update on that, the railport for a brief period was owned by COCDC. It then transferred over to South Plains Lamesa Railroad, which is a private railroad operator based out of Slayton, Texas, which is near Lubbock. That operator was required to meet several different performance metrics, which were met well ahead of schedule. At present, the railport operator, South Plains Lamesa, has invested over $3 million in the railport, mostly in the form of structures. That would be 13,000 linear feet of trackage, a double track main up the western side running from 50th Street up to 2105. They did purchase locomotive power. They actually have 2 locomotive units. The main one is a GP20 switch engine. That's an engine capable of making an international or intercontinental run if needed, but it's used for switching. The trackage is also being met with 3 what they call number 8 turnouts. That's part of the 13,000 linear feet of trackage, and so there are 3 live turnouts on the site as well. Of note, one of the main keys to the success of the railport is the opening of the Ojinaga-Presidio Bridge that's in Presidio, Texas, down near Big Bend. That international rail bridge was destroyed in 2008 by fire. It was a very old trestle bridge. It was rebuilt by Texas Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, and the Mexican government. That bridge has gone through several years of waiting. The bridge was actually ready to operate in 2020. That bridge has been waiting for the arrival of a Customs and Border Protection facility on the U.S. side, where trains are pulled into an enclosed area, inspected, and then they are free to move on to the rest of the country. The holdup on that has been CBP capabilities of getting bids and getting the funding together to build the facility. That facility was funded 2 years ago by the FRA, FHA, Federal Highway Administration, and TxDOT. We will be attending a vote tomorrow in Austin with the Texas Department of Transportation to, we hope, see the letting of the contract and the approval of the contract to build the facility, which should take about 16 to 18 months. If that vote is successful, which we hope and expect it will be, that will give us international rail traffic between Mexico and the United States via the Presidio Ojinaga Bridge within about 18 months' time. Currently, facility improvements that are underway. Let me also add, there are two user tenants that are out at the port right now. That's CSA Materials and Darling Proteins. Darling used to be known as Valley Proteins, located out near Moretta. Those are the two biggest users. There are some other smaller users that have run several trains through the port, but those are the two most consistent, larger ones. We are advised by Mr. Shad Weisner, who is the owner of South Plains Lamesa, that he is currently in negotiations with several other users for permanent use for transloading at the port. And so we don't know who those companies are, but we have a pretty good idea, but we're not allowed to disclose those at this time as the negotiations are ongoing. To give an idea of the port facility improvements, you have 3 number 8 turnouts, which are active. I just reported those. There are 2 local full-time employees on site. The live work crew housing offices, which is a portable building that's being permanently affixed to the structure with its own septic system and water line, is now on site. It should be activated in about a month. The commercial scales for weighing the trucks that come in and go out with aggregate and product are on site and active. The AEP power transformers and power lines have been installed. That was done about 14 months ago. There are ties and trackage that are pre-assembled in kits that are stacked and ready to lay. There's 3,000 linear feet more of trackage on the 4th turnout that is just about underway to start construction. The water well and the supply tank are installed. There is a new GP20 on site. You may see it. It's a kind of a powder blue, robin egg blue power unit that's up near the 2105 side. That currently is being used for parts. South Plains Lamesa got a pretty good deal on that one because that locomotive was an older locomotive that they owned, and it was one that they wanted to bring down here. Over the next couple of quarters, you're going to see a lot more activity at the port. The port at Slayton was actually sold by South Plains Lamesa to a large tank and rail car company out of Chicago. And so a lot of the infrastructure and tenants from the Slayton port will likely locate to San Angelo. And that was going on for about 2.5 years, and we weren't at liberty to talk about it, but that's kind of the big news. That was a good deal. It was a good deal for the user out of Chicago and a good deal for South Plains, in that this user that they ultimately sold the South Plains Lamesa Slayton port to was using so much of it over time that it just made sense for them to own the entire port. So a lot of that focus that's on Slayton is coming down to San Angelo. There's also a new Trackmobile, which is a lighter weight, smaller unit that's able to move individual and small groups of cars. And the report that you have in front of you does have a number of images of some of the improvements. We have toured, just so you know, so we could put our eyes on what's going on down at the Stubbs Ranch. This is down near Alpine. This is where CSA Materials has one of their largest quarries, where they quarry out what's called trachyte rock. Trachyte rock is used mostly for rail ballasts and for road construction. So if there's any questions, I am happy to answer those.
So you're in the process of installing a water line from the 50th Street water well to serve the crew housing there. Mm-hmm. What's being done with regard to wastewater for that facility?
That's going to be a septic system right now. That's going to be a TCEQ-approved septic system at this point. So the water system is really mostly for crew use and crew comfort, and for the operation itself. At some point in the future, there are probably going to be user manufacturers that would need larger volumes of water, and that would be something where we'd have to talk about municipal water coming out to the port, but nothing at this time, so we're kind of building it piece by piece as we go. We think that the opening of the Ojinaga Bridge at Presidio is probably going to change that dynamic over the next 2 years, where we're going to see a lot more international freight traffic coming through San Angelo. Some of it will utilize our port as either a destination or an origination point for cargoes. For those who aren't aware, there are 7 operational rail bridges between the United States and Mexico going from San Diego to Brownsville. The Ojinaga Bridge is the 7th of 7, so that there are not very many rail bridges connecting the U.S. and Mexico. So once the Ojinaga-Presidio Bridge opens, you're going to see, we know this, we've been talking to the different companies that will utilize it. There's going to be a lot more traffic coming through that bridge because it's going to serve as a reliever to El Paso, Brownsville, Port St. Teresa, which is El Paso, and Laredo. And so we expect to see a lot more freight coming through that bridge, again, in probably about 18 months. Any other questions? All right.
So, well, I know you say you're working on the 4th, what is it, turnout?
Turnout. Mm-hmm.
Turnout. What's the capacity? Like, how many more can we put in there? Just out of
You
curiosity.
can do a total of 11 turnouts.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are several users that have been looking at different internal trackage layouts, and that's why South Plains Lamesa has not laid out all 11, because they didn't want to lay them down and then have to pull them back up again. So really the users are commanding which turnouts and how long and at what grades they needed to be laid. And so that's all moving forward. We're out there yesterday checking it out, and their crew of 2 are out there very busy, getting ready to lay down that number 4 turnout. And that turnout runs several hundred meters. I mean, once it's turned out off the main track, it goes for several hundred meters to the east.
Other questions? Thank you, Michael.
All right, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Sure.
All right. We'll move on to item B. Consider a resolution authorizing the board president to negotiate and execute a memorandum of understanding with the City of San Angelo and the San Angelo Area Foundation in the amount not to exceed $150,000 for partial funding of parks and parks facilities, splash pad, including land, buildings, equipment, facilities, and improvements, a project authorized under Section 505.152 of the Texas Department Corporation Act, and a recommendation or recommending approval by City Council. Presentation by Michael Dane.
Good morning, Michael Dane, Interim Economic Development Director. Recall that last meeting we had an update presentation about the splash pads initiative. They reported that they had achieved enough funding to begin working with the city to start the first, and they were kicking off the fundraising for the second splash pad. At that point, the board, the consensus of the board was that that COSIDC participate in the amount of $150,000. And so this item before you today is a resolution in support of that initiative. That's it.
That's all you got? So at this point, I forgot, Brandon, do we open it for public comment, or is this just a board motion? Or?
You'll need a motion to approve, and then it'll come back at another meeting for a public hearing, and then, yes, allow public comment
Okay,
of this item.
cool. So do we have any discussion from the board? Questions? No? All right, then we'll have a motion from. Okay. We have a first by Director Rodriguez, second by Director Spano. Any discussion?
And
Yes.
we are taking public comment on
On this?
right now? Yeah.
Okay, so we'll open it up to public comment?
Okay.
Okay, before we move forward, let's say, it's at 8:46, do we have any public comment on this agenda item? All right, seeing none, we'll close it for public comment. It's 8:47, and we have a first and a second, and no discussion, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No, motion carries. All right, thank you, Michael. All right, then, next item is closed session, item 6, executive session under the provision of Government Code Title 5, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, exceptions to requirements that meetings be open under the following sections. A, Section 551.087, Business Prospect Negotiations regarding A, Brett Project Punch, and B, Brett Project OTR-2, and B, Section 551.072, deliberations about real property regarding A, sale of 7.23 acres in industrial park, and B, sale of 17 plus or minus acres in industrial park. So it is 8:48, and we are now in closed session. Thank you, everybody. 43, and we are back from closed session. We'll move on to item number 7, follow-up and administrative issues. A, consideration and possible action of items discussed in closed session if needed, and there are none. B, announcement and consideration of future agenda items. Do we have any?
You gonna go? I'll say, I'd like to request an update on the agenda in regards to the director position, and where we're at, what the plan of attack is on that.
Okay?
Okay, do you have any other items? No? All right.
Max, we had talked about field trips, and if you want to make Project Punch a field trip, we could do something like that. Or if you'd like another location to be a field trip, one of the things Bob is routinely doing is visiting the airport to watch the construction. And he says that's very interesting and it's going up very fast. In fact, I think the last update he gave me was that ASU had broken ground on the pilot training facility. So
I've got some pictures. I don't think I sent you the last round of pictures, but I'll send you some pictures.
the airport might be an interesting field trip if you're ready. If we don't want to do a big field trip, if anybody wants to go, Bob's doing that on a regular basis. You can tag along with him. So,
That'd be good. We have a lot invested in the airport, so I think it'd be good to kind of keep tabs on the progress. Okay.
You want us to try to set up a road trip for the airport?
Yeah.
all right, we'll pick a couple of dates and see what, we might have to do more than one. We might do one week, might pick 2 dates, and you can select the date which suits you best.
Yep. Cool. All right. Anything else? All right. If not, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment. We have a second? All right. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. We are officially adjourned. It is 9:45. Thank you very much.